friends, welcome back to Bubbly Balloon Co. Today we're doing a Christmas themed mosaic filled with balloons. Now this technique is going to be solid all year round, but this super cute Santa hat template is courtesy of my friend at madammosaic.com, aka at madam.mosaic over on Instagram. She is a legend when it comes to mosaic templates. She sells digital templates and also physical paper templates that you can buy on her website. I will include all of those links down below, but today she has helped me out by giving me some key tips on how to make my mosaics look a little bit cleaner because I always feel like they're just a little bit sloppy. So I'm going to pass those tips on to you guys. We're going to put one of her digital templates to the test, and I'm going to take you through this many-step process. It's a little more complicated than what I normally do on this channel, so I'm going to walk you through every step of the way, and we're going to make a beautiful Santa hat mosaic filled with balloons. So let's jump right in. The first thing I want to do is show you all the different supplies you're going to need for this creation, which is a lot more than on a normal job. Now there's quite a few supplies you're going to need to create a mosaic filled with balloons. First and foremost, you're going to need some foam boards. These are 3/16 of an inch and these are 20 inches by 30 inches. You're also going to need some painter's tape throughout this process, so I recommend having that to hand, as well as some regular scissors and some sort of X-Acto knife, crafting blade, something like that. Insert safety clause here, okay? We're gonna need some regular old Scotch tape. We're gonna need a ruler or a yardstick, which I do not have, so I'm actually gonna be using this retractable tape measure. Say a prayer for me. As well as both a high temp and a low temp glue gun. Now, if you have a dual temp glue gun, that could work too. I do not, so I'm gonna be having a high temp and a low temp to hand with some glue sticks that work at both temperatures. Of course, we're gonna need our instructions and the actual template itself, as well as a pencil. I suppose you could use a pen, but I think that a pencil is going to be way better for this application. Now we're going to be using a hand pump specifically on this creation. If you have a fancy professional grade inflator that does specific sizes, it has memory settings or something like that, that could work too. I do not. The inflator I currently use is one of the cheapest ones available. So that means I'm going to be using a hand pump for this creation so we can get some consistency in sizing, and I will talk more about that a little bit later on. And lastly, of course, you're going to need whatever balloons you're using in this creation. So you need two sizes of balloons only. I would recommend 9-inch. If you can't find 9-inch, 11-inch is totally fine, which is what I'm doing today. And then also the 5-inchers, okay? Now the two colors I'm using today are, of course, red and white. I'm using white from Tuftex in 11-inch and 5-inch, and red from Qualitex in 11-inch and 5-inch. Side note, we're only going to be using a small amount of those larger, those either 9-inch or 11-inch balloons, but we will be using a ton of the 5-inch balloons. All right, now that we've got all our supplies out, the very first thing to do is print out your instructions and then print out the actual template. Now, when you purchase from Madam Mosaic, and I'm sure it's like this with a lot of the mosaic templates you can buy out there, but you're going to get a variety of sizes, maybe like 2.5 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, whatever those different options are. Today I went with the 3-footer. It's a pretty solid size. It's still going to look substantial, but it's when you scale up in a mosaic size, those larger sizes take an uncanny amount of balloons. Like, it's crazy how many balloons you need to fill those things. So just make sure those are priced accordingly if you're offering this as a paid service, and if it's something you're doing for yourself, just maybe start a little bit smaller than you think you want and get the feel for it before you commit to like a 5 or 6 footer, because dang y'all, those take some work. Okay, now that I've got my designs, my layout, and my template all printed out here, I'm gonna go ahead and start following these instructions step by step, starting by laying out this entire template just as it says to do on this sheet right here. Now this is obviously going to change by size. So what I've printed out is the 3-foot one, which is the one I'm doing, but yours may look different depending on what size you're using. Quick tip, make sure you look for that special note in the instructions that tells you what settings to use on your printer so that it prints off the right way. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay this template out just as she says to do here, tape that together so we can get started. So now that that second step is done, and we have this cute template all laid out here, now it's time to whip out those scissors, trim this thing out, and get it down to the exact shape that our final mosaic is gonna be in. Now that I know the final shape and size of what I need for this mosaic, I can go ahead and lay out the foam boards I'm going to be using and tape them together with this painter's tape so I can start tracing and then cutting out this final shape. Now, of course, I want to do this part in the most efficient way possible to save myself the most empty space at the end because I'm going to need to cut out a lot of strips. Now we're going to go ahead and tape down our actual template itself and then trace that out onto the foam boards. Now this step only applies if you've got those interior lines like I do here on the Santa hat, but what you're gonna wanna do next is either remove the paper template or trim all the parts that we're done with and just get down to that inside shape so that we can trace those guidelines. We're going to use this X-Acto knife to really cut that shape out carefully. Now, I highly recommend doing this on top of a specialty mat that protects your surface from any cuts, or you could even use a cardboard box if you don't have one of those. I'm living a little dangerously today and I don't feel great about it, I'll be honest. Now, if your shape comes with inside lines like mine does, we're not cutting those. We're just cutting the outside shape of the template at this point. And that's what that outline is gonna look like, and you can see that we have those gentle inside lines as well already laid out for later. The next thing is gonna be to cut the strips we need, both for the outside border as well as any inside borders we have. Now, Madame Mosaic tells me that you can cut your outside border strips in any width between 3 and 6 inches. Now, since we're doing one of the smaller designs, this 3-footer, I'm gonna kind of play it safe here and go with a 4-inch width, but you can kind of play with it and see what feels right to you. Now, if you have any of those like interior borders, we're gonna cut strips for those as well. And Madame Mosaic recommends cutting those 1/4 inch shorter than your exterior borders. So I'll be making those 3 3/4 inches wide. Now, if you're gonna need any of those strips to bend, if you have a curved shape, it's not perfectly straight in some parts, that's where this next step comes in. We're gonna score the strips, which means we're gonna make like shallow cuts in them. We're not cutting all the way through. We're just making little kind of like gentle cuts that will allow it to bend in a certain direction without fully breaking or tearing. Now, according to my instruction sheet here, these score marks should be about 1 ruler width apart. That makes it really easy to just slice, slice, slice and keep going. Since I'm using a tape measure, mine might not be quite as perfect of a distance, but I think it's gonna work out. Now, I'm not gonna lie, all of the printing, the assembling, the taping, the tracing, the cutting, the slicing, that part takes forever. But the good news is, it's over. Now we get to whip out our hot glue gun and assemble this entire frame. So what we're gonna be doing is just placing kind of like a line or some beads of hot glue around the edges, taking one scored strip at a time and placing it exactly where we want it. Now, if you have a part of your design with a straight border, keep in mind you don't have to score the strips for those areas, and that's a time saver. Now, another tip of Madame Mosaic's is to use this painter's tape to hold the edges and the border to the actual back of the frame itself while that hot glue is cooling off, because it takes ages to cool down. And we're using painter's tape because it's gentle and we really don't want to pull off anything that's visible and leave any marred surfaces. How cute is this freaking frame, you guys? Now, while this hot glue cools down and this frame really sets, what I'm gonna do is take this chance to inflate all of the balloons I'm gonna need for this creation. I'm gonna inflate one color at a time, one size at a time, and I always recommend having like hampers or something like that that you can store these balloons in to keep them clean, keep them together in one place and just nearby for when you need them. Now, one of the biggest tips and takeaways I got from Madame Mosaic before starting this creation was to inflate to only a couple of sizes. She says when you do too many random sizes throughout a mosaic, that it can look a little bit messy or sloppy, and one of her techniques to keep it looking really neat and clean is to only inflate to a couple of sizes. So I'm going to go for inflating all these 11-inch balloons to the same size, and then on the 5-inchers, she recommends only doing 2 sizes total. So maybe one might be like 3 pumps and one might be a half a pump. But whatever sizes you end up choosing, just stick with those 2 sizes on those 5-inch balloons, and it's gonna make it a lot sharper and pop a lot more. Now, this part does take a hot minute, not gonna lie. This is my least favorite part of doing mosaics and a huge reason why I do them so infrequently. This part takes forever. Tying balloons individually is hell on your fingers. It really does hurt. And especially when we're making those little tiny, like very small balloons, those can be difficult to make. They're hard on the fingers. It's a little bit frustrating if you have to like keep redoing some. And it can be super annoying. You usually need way more than you think. 1, because the mosaic takes a ton, and 2, because they do have a tendency to pop when hot glue is involved. So I recommend making a ton because you are probably gonna want a lot more than you think you will. At least that's how it's always turned out for me. One final note on these tiny balloons is we do want to trim off that tail. We don't want that visible from the outside. So once you've gotten that knot nice and secure as tight as you can, we're gonna go ahead and trim that tail off. Whew! Thought I was never gonna finish inflating there. But okay, now that we've got all our balloons inflated, guess what time it is? We get to take the tape off of this beautiful frame here, gently, carefully, delicately. Let's not mess this up. And then we're gonna start filling this frame. So I'm going to start with my largest balloons first. I'm going to put all the big ones in, a little bit staggered, a little bit scattered, okay? Then I'm going to fill in the rest of that blank bottom layer there with those larger 5-inch balloons, okay? And then we're going to take the chance to fill in as many gaps as our heart desires with those little teeny tiny cutie patooties. Now there's a lot of methods you can use to get these base layer of balloons to stick in this mosaic. You can use that cool temp glue gun, you can use glue dots, glue dashes, whatever works best for you. I say go for it. To each their own. We're all gonna have different preference with it. I'm just gonna give you a little bit of warning. If you go the cool glue route, fair warning, you probably will burst a few, okay? And that is especially the case when they are as large as they will go. When they're super inflated, they're much thinner, there's much less resistance, and that heat is gonna work through it much quicker. So if you can not super overinflate the balloons, you know, if you can make those 5 inches a little bit smaller than they would extend to, that's gonna help you pop some less. But if you like that bigger 5-inch look, then just make some extras. I did end up adding in a third size of 5-inch balloons here, these very small ones, for some of those final details. I just thought it made a world of difference. If you want to add in any final details to really bring this thing to life, now is your chance. Otherwise, this beautiful baby is done. And there she is. How cute is this little beauty? So this was very labor intensive for me. It took a lot more hours than a usual creation does for me, but I'm sure this is something that you get faster at the more you do it. And I do want to say that she sells physical kits at her website, madamosaic.com, where you can actually get like pre-cut foam boards and everything. So all you have to do is assemble and fill. Now in the end, this creation ended up standing up just fine on its own, but I did see on Madame Mosaic's Instagram that she has a tip on how to create a stand or a base if you want a little extra stability, so you could check that out. How stinking cute did this turn out, you guys? I'm absolutely obsessed with the template idea. In the past, my husband has always helped me to like freestyle any designs I've wanted in a mosaic, but I think I'm converted. This is so much cleaner, so much neater. It looks fabulous, and a huge shout out and thanks to Madame Mosaic for sending this template over for this video today. I hope these extra tips and tricks helped you to make your mosaic a little sharper, a little cleaner, a little cuter, or even gave you the confidence to go ahead and try your first one. If you've got any other tips for how to make a beautiful mosaic filled with balloons, please leave them in the comments below. Help the bubbly community out. Otherwise, I really appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If you liked the video, you know what to do. I'll see you next time.